Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. My guest this evening is Julia Dozier. She is an author and a very talented poet. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's an honor to be here with you this evening.
Well, I'm honored to have you. So, can you tell us a little about your background? How would you describe yourself?
Sure. I am a Bronx native, born and raised not too far from Yankee Stadium, and born during the time of the rise of hip hop. So I have, that in my blood as well. I am racially mixed, but I do identify as African American primarily. Um, I enjoy helping others, coaching others, uh, and really, making sure that everyone that I come in contact with leaves me a little bit better, and really just, focused on their happiness and living a full life.
Good deal. So, what is your profession?
I have multiple of them.
Okay.
My primary one is organizational development. I'm really focused on process improvement, policy and procedure development, workforce management, budgets, those kinds of things.
Okay, very good. One of my degrees is in organizational management. That was from way back, so probably forgotten all I learned about it.
You never forget, though.
So, are you mostly a writer or are you mostly a poet?
I am mostly a writer.
Okay.
I'm mostly a writer. Growing up, I read many books, mostly the classics like Homer and the Iliad and
Beowulf.
yes. I grew up as an only child, and my mom always had like really, really good books in the house. So I would read her books. She wouldn't necessarily purchase books for me, so I would read her books. I would read like Don Quixote. I think I was maybe 11 or 12 when I read that. And so I was influenced by those writings, like the Greek mythology, and I think it developed my sense of vision and being able to see words and see the pictures that were, expressed through the writing. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I started getting into poetry, if that's what you want to call it. It was probably rap when I was maybe about 15 or 16. I loved hip hop. I was so influenced by Big Daddy Kane, who was my favorite at the time, and also Biz Markie, who just recently passed away. And, just all of those hip hop greats. Being from the Bronx, Boogie Down Production influenced me. And so my writing as a poet started out writing rhymes, trying to write rhymes.
Well, you have to be a hip hop star. You have to be a great poet, I guess, huh?
Yes. Yes. I loved how they were able, again, to paint a picture of what they were expressing, and that what they were expressing, I could connect to. I was connected to.
Yeah. Well, I first found out about you when our friend Quentin Ford played one of your poems online. And well, actually, I think he put them on his Facebook page and I seen them. And I thought, wow, this lady is awesome. And we've been talking a lot about civil rights, on our show Conversations About America. And that
Yes.
just kind of fit in. So would you be kind enough to play your poem about Martin Luther King Jr.?
Yes, I will play it now. I'm going to play the recorded version for you.
Okay, thank you.
39. A Piece by Jules O'Day. I wonder if they knew when they held you in their arms that they had really given birth to a king. Acceptance into Morehouse College at 15. Assistant pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church at 19. Doctorate in theology at 26. First public address to the nation at 28. dead at 39. I wonder if they knew that when you began to follow the path of equality, at your funeral they'd sing. Prayer vigils, jail. Sit-ins, jail. Marches, jail. Demonstrations, jail. Nonviolence, nonviolence, nonviolence. And yet you were faced with bombs. I wonder if anyone has ever paused to imagine what it must have been like to live in your skin, aspiring to peace with death and spit and dogs and guns akin. Oh, what turmoil you must have faced, beloved. How did you find the hope within? Man of the Year at 34, managing riots and Watts and wars in Vietnam at 36, the voice of one crying in the wilderness. 36, 37, 38, dead at 39. I wonder if you know that when we pause to reflect upon the life and legacy you left behind, we honor you. We see you on the mountaintop, adorned in your white robe, trimmed with gilded gold. We hear the whispers of your words echoed upon the face of this systematically stratified, traumatized, hypnotized, and isolated globe. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, you are free at last. I hope you know that although we all may not be able to walk your walk, we shall indeed walk your path. Arms locked, mask up, policy and legislation in hand, hoping one day to wake up no longer having to dream, but actually being able to say, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. 39, 39, 39, 39.
Thank you.
That is powerful, very powerful. So I have to ask, why did you repeat 39 4 times at the end? I'm sure you did that for a reason.
Usually, when I'm writing my poetry, I attach to the word or the sentiment that means most to me that I want the listener to connect to as well. And I think it's important for us to understand, you know, when we look back, we are able to see films of Malcolm, we are able to read his speeches, we are able to understand the changes that he was able to make, you know, through his movement. But I don't think that we really connect to how young he was when he began his work. He really understood his purpose, I think, and he walked in it, you know, regardless of the circumstance or the trials that he faced. And he was 39 years old when he passed away. And when I wrote that piece, it was around the time that we lost George Floyd. And, you know, I want people to think about the value of their lives. You know, 39 is a significant age. It's right before you're getting ready to approach your 40s, which is where you should be able to enjoy all of the hard work that you put in, you know, building your career, building your family, all of those things. You should start to be able to enjoy your maturity and things of that nature. He never got an opportunity to do that, you know? So, you know, don't take advantage. My point was, don't take advantage of the life that you have. And
Yeah,
if you feel like you have a purpose, live it.
yeah, yeah, I love that. Now, you use the name Jules all day as the author. What's the meaning behind that?
So Jules All Day is my Instagram handle.
Okay.
And it's also my poetess handle. Basically because I hope that whenever I speak, I'm dropping jewels, as they say. And I try to be very intentional whenever I'm speaking to someone. So it's just like, I just want to drop jewels all day.
Okay. Okay. Well, I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
And I heard another one you did about Malcolm X. So we didn't find the entire one, right? Did you
I
find?
do have the entire
Oh, you
one.
do? Okay, I
I
would
do.
love to hear that if you don't mind. That is so touching.
Okay.
I write a letter to you tonight, El Haj Malik El Shabazz. I was supposed to write a poem instead. You know, lines tight, rhymes right, the normal flow. But each time I tried to write one line, my mind kept traveling back in time. I remember reading your autobiography 3 times and watching movies and documentaries of your life 3 times to the 9th power. Unbeknownst to me, I've been studying you since the age of 13, standing in ciphers amongst gods and earths, discovering knowledge of self, original God, true queen, brothers dropping mathematics of the Asiatics. You were Allah the Father's greatest influence. Same here. It has been said that we are not the outcome of our consequences, but rather the outcome of our choices. Indeed, you lived your life in this way. And as I write this letter to you tonight, you begin to reveal to me the mysticism surrounding your life. You were covered in 7s. 6.5 years in prison, not quite 7, but the number of your mosque in Harlem. 7, the number of times you walked around the Kaaba. 7, the number of times you ran between the hills of Safa and Marwa. 7, the number of letters in your government name, Malcolm. The God Rakim said constant elevation causes expansion. Elevate, you did. Expand, you did. From an 8th grade education, you evolved into one of the most highly regarded leaders of Black pride, self-reliance, equality, and civil rights. They called you red, the color of anger, danger, passion, love, joy, and sacrifice. Sacrifice. Brother Malcolm, thank you for teaching me that the foundation of the equation is rooted in the solution. And that is that sometimes the answer is the quiet revolution, which begins in our own human evolution. Elevate, expand, evolve. I write a letter to you tonight.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is awesome. That is awesome. So it's obvious that you were very, very much influenced and impressed by Dr. King and Malcolm also, as I am. They were,
Yeah.
they were great men. Uh,
Absolutely.
So also you have, is it 1 book or 2 books or 3 books? Is it a series, Crown Rules? Which is it?
It's a series.
Okay,
Currently, there are 2 books in the series. I'm working on the 3rd one right now.
okay,
The first book is titled Crown Rules, One Woman's Journey to the Throne. This is my personal transformation experience that I've written in lessons that I learned during that time. And for the reader, it allows them to explore like the importance of their heart, their soul, their life, their purpose, their sphere of influence, who they have around them, so that we really can be attentive to these aspects of ourselves. I don't think that, with all of the things that we are required to learn in school, we don't necessarily have opportunity to learn about ourselves and connect to ourselves. And so this book allows the reader to do that. It was written primarily for women, but it's also a good resource for men as well.
Okay. Is it a spiritual book?
I would say that it is. I was actually going through a spiritual transformation at the time that I wrote it. I didn't realize it. And I think that I'm starting to understand it more now, 5 years later, that although I was a very determined young woman and very smart and intelligent young woman, that I had lived most of my young adult life possibly being depressed. And I had a situation wherein I was injured. I injured myself. I fell in my own home and had a terrible injury, ended up with staples in my head and stitches in my face, and just a horrible injury. I lost feeling in my left arm due to the nerve damage on the right side of my face, and I had to recover. And fortunately, during that time, it wasn't just a physical recovery, it was also a spiritual recovery where I reclaimed who I am, who I was always supposed to be. But life and circumstance probably got in the way.
Yeah. So are you a religious person?
I wouldn't say that I'm a religious person. I would say that I am extremely connected to my spirit, um, the spirit that I understand to be my higher source, which is God and Jesus Christ, because I was baptized and saved in 1997 when I was 27 years old. So I haven't left that alone.
Okay.
But I'm not too big on organized religion.
Yeah. So is
I
prayer,
think it's very unorganized.
I understand that. So is prayer and meditation a real big part of your life?
Meditation is an extremely big part of my life, and I've been practicing meditation for the last 5 years now. And it's changed in a sense. I have a cousin who always says to me that she wants me to teach her how to meditate. And it's like meditation is something that you have to be willing to learn for yourself and do for yourself. Initially, when I started meditating, it was really about finding a quiet place in my home to sit and be quiet and to reflect and to connect to myself. But my mind is busy. And so that form of meditation doesn't work for me. What works best for me is I live in a coastal area, so happy about that. But meditation for me is being able to go to the beach and to sit on the shore and watch the waves and listen to the water and feel the water. So meditation for me is sensory. I can walk through, I'm not big on wooded areas, but I can walk in areas with trees and just listen to the leaves blow. And that helps me to connect to whatever I need to connect to at that time.
Yeah. Well, I'm in East Tennessee. We don't have any ocean, but we have plenty of trees and leaves.
Are you a meditator?
Am I what?
Do you meditate?
I do my own kind of meditation and prayer every morning. It's kind of more of like I read a devotional, excuse me, And then I will meditate on it for a while, and then I'll have a little prayer time. So that works for me.
Yes.
That works for me.
Yes.
And I'm a Christian, so I have my personal relationship with Christ, and that's definitely important. So I'm a very
Yes.
grateful person, and I imagine you are too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I read somewhere a while back, and I totally agree with it. How did it go? I'll probably mess this up. Grateful people get a lot of blessings, so don't wait for blessings to be grateful or something. And I messed it up. But anyway, the idea was the gratitude comes first, and you get a lot more blessings to go with it. Does that make sense? Okay.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It absolutely does. And I think, sometimes we try to hack the system, right? When we want blessings and we start to say all of the things that we're grateful for, but it doesn't work that way. I think for me, gratitude is really about having a clear space, a clear, happy, joyful space within your heart and mind, where you understand that life itself is precious and anything that's added to it is like more is more. And when you are open in that way, it's like more things want to come toward you so that you can appreciate those things too.
Yeah. Were you ever a bitter person, or did you ever feel like you were a victim?
Um, I would have to say yes. I would have to say yes. And the only reason why I can say yes now is because I'm not bitter anymore. Um, One of the reasons I have this conversation with Quentin Ford sometimes too about the difference between being bitter and better. I realize now that I was bitter, and part of the reason why I was bitter is because I thought that the way to receive appreciation or respect or love or acknowledgement was to give as much as myself as I could in any situation. And what I experienced time and time again is that the respect or appreciation or love that I was looking for wasn't coming back to me. As a matter of fact, I felt horrible after. I felt horrible after giving as much as I could in any situation,
Yeah.
family, work, love, just giving 1,000%. And it wasn't a situation where I gave so much to everyone that I didn't have, much for myself. I wanted people to see me and see that I cared and see that I loved them and I wanted the best for them. I wanted them to be happy. And a lot of times they treated me like crap.
I can relate to
And
that.
I was upset about that. Huh?
I can relate to that.
Can you relate to that?
I can, yeah.
And they, sometimes they say, you don't do things expecting things in return. But I mean, at the very least, like if I give you something from my heart, I don't need you to try to match me, but share your heart with me too, in whatever way that is or could be for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't give you their heart; they give you their butt or the bottom of their shoes sometimes.
Or their opinion. Yeah.
Exactly. And that made me very upset. I was taking it personal.
Yeah.
I was taking it personal
Yeah.
that I wasn't receiving what I was giving.
I suspect you came to the same conclusion I did, that I have to love myself. And, if I can't do that, then nobody else is really going to, like I need and deserve to be loved. Did you have that same awakening?
I did have that same awakening, but I think the other part of my awakening was understanding that not everybody loves themselves.
Yeah.
And that sometimes if you have a lot of love to give and you give that to people, especially people who are not in love with themselves or who don't love themselves, it can feel like too much love. They
Yeah.
don't understand what it is. They think that you're looking for something from them or that you're not being authentic. They don't get it. And so what I've learned to do is kind of wait to see who's in love with themselves,
Yeah.
who else is in love with themselves and can return that. And that's where I invest my love and my energy.
Yeah. So how is your current self-talk compared to the way you used to talk to yourself in the past?
Oh, that's an excellent question. My self-talk in the past was really the voice of the people who were talking around me.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to understand that too. That the conversation that I was having with myself was the conversation that others were having with me, or they weren't even having a conversation with me. They were just talking at me. And so whatever their words were, and those words weren't always positive and kind. And they were very judgmental, very critical, very harsh, and very mean.
Yeah.
And so that was the conversation that I was having with myself all the time over small things and big things.
Yeah.
Um, and part of what I got to do when I was recovering from that injury I was telling you about is I got to sit in silence and listen to myself. And one of the things that I did and I still do now is if my words were touch, how would those words feel on my skin? And I felt beat up just listening to myself.
Yeah.
And I said, well, this is not going to work.
Yeah. Really.
Can you relate?
I can, definitely. You just told my story.
Do you
Yeah.
recall the moment that your self-talk changed?
It wasn't a moment. It was gradual. It
Mm,
was gradual. It was up and down, back and forth, and an emotional roller coaster.
mm.
And I saw something you put on your Facebook page earlier today where you said, I almost let somebody tell me who I am, but I'm back now. And
Yes.
that's what I had to learn to do, not let other people tell me who I am.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that I had that experience. I had someone they really tried to tell me who I was. And I can't say if they meant any harm. I don't know what their intention or purpose was, but they really tried to tell me who I was. And because I had had people telling me who I was for so long, I went back to that space where it was like, okay, that's true. Whatever they're saying is true. And I was like, wait a minute, sister.
What's going on here?
What's going on here?
Yeah.
And I realized that the reason, now this is deep, Steve. This was my revelation today. I realized that the reason why I was willing to accept what they had said was because I was feeling bad about a choice that I had made. And I thought that I deserved some kind of punishment for it.
Mm.
And so in this scenario, the punishment would be believing whatever they said about me that didn't feel good. And that would have been the punishment.
Yeah. Do
And
you
it's
ever
like,
do
huh?
you ever catch yourself thinking, well, maybe it'll be easier on me if I go back to being what they say I am?
I can't go back.
I'm not suggesting you do, but do you ever feel the temptation to just give up and say, no, I can't be a better person? Because sometimes I have to fight that. I really do. Sadly.
As I was, yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. I think your greatest enemy and your greatest partner is your mind. And, the thing is, we have power over our mind and the thoughts that we choose to think. And we really have to be aware of what we're thinking. And, that's another part of my meditation, to pay attention to what I'm thinking. And as I was, trying to use what they had said to me to punish me, it was like, well, that punishment doesn't even feel right anymore.
Yeah.
And why doesn't that punishment feel right anymore? Because not only am I not what they say I am, I also am a person who can accept responsibility for my choices now,
Yeah.
good or bad, and understand that it's just a choice. It's not a definition of who I am.
Yeah. And I have
But
heard
it's a
it say,
struggle.
I've heard it said that when we make mistakes, we're really just learning one more thing that doesn't work. So we're really making progress.
We're making progress.
Yeah.
I learned through that choice, I learned one more thing that doesn't work, and I got closer to what I really want. I know what I really want now.
Yeah.
And that feels good.
It does. It does. Absolutely. So what would you say has been your most challenging thing to overcome in your life? What has been your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge has been to clear my heart of disappointment. I think that I had in the past, I had expectations, like really, 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 really high expectations of people and people that I really love and care for. And in one way or another, they may have disappointed me, but because I'm so sensitive, and I think that's the thing that people don't get to see about me, because I usually show up as strong, and I usually am the person that people might come to talk things over with, and I, for the most part, try to be positive. People don't really get to see how sensitive I am.
Yeah.
And how little things mean so much to me, and how if someone hurts me, it hurts me really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I've had to learn, number one, to allow myself to feel that hurt, to accept it, but to not carry it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. So what accomplishment are you most proud of?
I am most proud today. I am most proud of the books in the Crown Rule series. When I go back and I look at them, and I had a conversation with a friend, a day ago about, whether or not people are going to read them now or they're going to read them later into the future, the importance of them. But my books really focus on, learning how to love and doing our best to not harm, and focusing on our relationships and being aware of how we're treating each other. And I do that from the perspective of loving and treating yourself well. And then the second book is about like how Black men love, but it could be applicable to any man. Like, what's important to men from the book we see is like family, and being able to provide, and being able to have a sense of pride. and being able to love a woman, like those things are important, and a lot of men are not connected to that.
Mm.
So just being able to share that. And this next book is about how Black women love, and just hearing their pain, but also their triumph and their resilience. And I think, you know, if one person is impacted in a positive way, then I did what I came to this planet to do.
Yeah. Very good. So what are your thoughts on the civil rights movement? We've been talking a lot about that on Conversations About America, and we've had some really good conversations. So what are your thoughts on that? Have we made any progress?
It's a very difficult question to answer, because I think progress can be evaluated in different ways, right? It could be evaluated in terms of economics, education, opportunities, health. Like there's just so many different ways that we could try to evaluate it. And then we can also look at progress in, or what progress looks like in different parts of the country, right? Because it's not the same everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think it's a hard question for me to answer, specifically because we have all of these amendment rights that are supposed to be applicable to everyone. But then we have to have these little caveats for protected groups. And I think that's just ridiculous. Like, I thought the first set of amendments was
Equality for
supposed to
all,
be
right?
applicable to everybody.
Yeah. All men are created equal, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, all men are created equal, but here's another amendment for you group of people who were created like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always been a big, it's always been a big hang up for me, you know, the men that said in the Constitution, all men are created equal. They didn't really mean all men, mankind. They meant all white men who were property owners. I mean, that was their idea. And they kept it that way for as long as they could. As long as they could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, now it's like, okay, so you get a Civil Rights Act, and you get a Civil Rights Act, and you get a Civil Rights Act, but it's like, what happened to the civility that was supposed to be outlined in the Constitution? So to me, I think even in creating those separate acts, as opposed to ensuring, you know, however it was intended initially, instead of ensuring that with whatever was initially written in the Constitution is applicable to everyone, we have these other little acts that really don't result in change.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Malcolm X's great speech, The Ballot or the Bullet?
The Ballot of the Bullet, yes.
Yeah. That was a tremendous speech. We were talking about that last night. It was a very eloquent speech, and you know, you can hear that and it sounds like it could have been written yesterday. You know, it doesn't seem like a lot has changed, unfortunately.
No. And you know, not only has a lot not changed, conditions have gotten worse.
Yeah.
Conditions have gotten worse. And you know, my friend always says that wherever there are people of color, there's suffering. And it's true. It's not just here, it's around the world, it's global.
Yeah.
And it's very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's very heartbreaking. And you have to wonder why. Why does there need to be an oppressor and the oppressed? What's the deal with it?
But that's the way it's been throughout human history, unfortunately. You know, it's not just America, it's always been that way.
always been that way,
Yeah.
you know, and I was very encouraged by the protests and demonstrations that we saw last summer. And I really thought that there was going to be action and investment towards real change. And to see, no offense to anyone, but to see an anti-Asian hate bill put into effect before the George Floyd police reform bill is disheartening, to say, you know, the least. I don't know where we're going.
Yeah. So do you think all the protesting last summer did any good?
Um, I think that it allowed people who had not previously participated in a democratic process to do so, to understand I think we live in a very isolated society. COVID, you know, created more of that isolation, but I think it was good for people to come together and, you know, to be on the same page about the same concern.
Yeah.
I think that was good. But I don't think that the momentum and action was put into place effectively. And people, you know, I'm very impacted by Malcolm and Martin, and people always think that, you know, we need a leader to kind of have us all on the same page. But what we can't overlook is the importance of like grassroots movements in individual communities. And, you know, just making the change that you need to or you want to see in your community, and then partnering with another community to make it regional, and then to make it national, and then to make it global. You have to start somewhere, and you can't wait for someone to pop up and take on the lead.
Yeah. So if Dr. King was still with us, what do you think he would be doing and saying now?
I think that that's a great question. You're going to get me in trouble. I think that he would be very critical of the people that we have in office, political office, who are empowered to not only drive legislation, but also funding behind legislation to make real lasting and important change in, you know, the areas that they represent. I think that he would be highly upset with that.
Yeah.
And I think he would speak to that, and I think he would require more of them, you know, as representatives of the public, to make sure that the public that they serve are receiving the services they need.
Yeah.
I think he would definitely speak to that. I think that that's where we're taking advantage of most.
Do you think, is there any Black leader now that even comes close to being the same caliber as Dr. King or Malcolm X?
I don't believe so. I believe that Dr. King and Dr. King and Malcolm X were the result of their time.
Yeah.
I think that they were the result of their time. I think they were the result of their time and their experiences. And I think that, again, living in an isolated society where people are not really connected, that people don't really have an opportunity to kind of feel the same societal pressures the same way. Like someone who's experiencing poverty in Chicago may not have the same experience as someone experiencing poverty in LA or in New York. And I think, you know, poverty being what it is, I think when Malcolm and Martin were alive, that we were all kind of saying that we were experiencing the same thing. And I think today just people just have different ideas of what they're going through, so they don't understand that it's systemic.
Yeah. Yeah, there, I'm glad you mentioned systemic, because there are a lot of people that actually deny that systemic racism is a reality. It's hard for me to understand how anybody cannot see that. You know, it really is. Um, but there's a lot of people who deny it, as you know.
I don't understand how they could not. I think the fact that the fact that you have, as he was talking about earlier, the fact that you have a constitution that's supposed to govern the nation, but then you have acts that are applied to certain groups to say that they're not getting the benefits
Yeah.
of what that constitution says is proof that there's a problem. That there's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not a problem that's faced by one person, it's a problem that's faced by groups.
Yeah. And the more I study American history, the more I agree that American history is Black history and Black history is American history. You can't really separate them. You can't really separate them.
There is no separation. There is no separation. I used to live in the Bronx, New York, before moving to Virginia. And I moved to Virginia to take care of family, but also because I wanted to be closer to the family roots that I was aware of.
Yeah.
And my great-great-grandfather used to live in a boarding house not too far from where I am right now. And when I walk in that area and I see all of the new construction, you know, that's there, or the buildings that have been there from maybe around the time that he was there, I know that his hands helped to construct that. And if not his hands, his son's hands, you know? And we're embedded, and I don't know how it could be separated.
Yeah.
I don't know how it could be separated.
Yeah. And I always say that, you know, since our founding fathers made it clear that only white men who owned property could vote, you know, if that's the foundation, which is obviously racist and sexist, how can everything built on that foundation not be racist and sexist? Does that make sense?
And they're looking to return to that now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be
But it doesn't matter what they do, we're resilient, and we always find a way to not only survive but thrive, you know? So I hope that they find other ways to invest their energy. We're still going to live, we're still going to be beautiful, we're still going to thrive, we're still going to find ways to create systems that, you know, hopefully as we continue to go forward, you know, we have more Black or African American entrepreneurs than we ever have. We have more college educated men and women than we ever have. We have more emerging millionaires than we've ever had. If we could get together and stop worrying about who's smoking weed and not being able to run the Olympics, but, you know, really get together and put all of that energy into creating our own systems, if need be, we'd be in a much better position, I think.
Yeah. Well, I hope it works in that way. I just hope somehow we can all learn to get along, whether we get along together or apart or whatever, as long as we're getting along, yeah, I guess that's progress, huh?
I guess so. What drives your passion,
Yeah.
Steve?
I love to see people get along. I love to see people happy together, working together. I love to see people grateful for what they've got. And we all have so many more blessings than we care to acknowledge sometimes, you know. I hate to see people mistreated. I hate to see people taken for granted or abused. Um, I guess like Dr. Martin said, I have a dream. And hopefully one day we'll all get to the promised land and live happily ever after, you know. It sounds good in theory anyway, doesn't it?
It does. And I think that if he was alive today, he would say that he had a plan.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's good when people think they have a plan, and sometimes it isn't.
As long as it's taking care of the multitude and not, the
Yeah,
many and not just the one.
yeah. Well, I have enjoyed talking to you, Julia. I really have, and I thank you for being on my show.
Thank you so much, Steve. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate the invitation. The conversation was amazing. I look forward to watching more of your shows, and just thank you for your gentle and your warm and your big heart.
Well, thank you very much. Same to you, and keep writing that beautiful poetry.
Okay, I will.
Okay, folks, thanks for tuning in to Holding On with Holder. Please subscribe to my channel and feel free to share this video all over social media, and be sure to read Crown Rules, right? All right. Thanks,
you.
Julia. I'll let you go, and God bless, and you have a wonderful evening.
You too. God bless you, Steve. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.